Okay, so just like a quick little overview here. I basically did the root cycle 3 in an ascending fashion. And as far as the intervals for the position change, I chose. I actually thought it'd be more interesting to play with choosing two intervals. Um, and originally, I would have stuck with something basic like 3 and 5. However, I liked the idea of experimenting with how a more dissonant interval would sound. So I first thought maybe 2. So like a sus2 chord there. But then I was like, well, why don't I just resolve that? And then I was like, well, if I'm going to resolve that, maybe I'll do the opposite, um, which was go from the 5 to the sharp 4 to recreate, that dissonance. And I kind of laid this out over here. Um, so when it comes to this initial pattern, beats 1 through 4 kind of are laid out like this. First beat is root, nothing else. Second beat is the dissonance because we're getting the suspended 2 and the fifth. So we've got, essentially in your case, you would call it like a 7 plus 7 structure on top of it, because you get 2/5 stacked. And then that resolves to the minor third of the chord. So in the middle of the measure, so we start off root, nothing else, dissonance right here, and then we've actually got the triad completed on the third beat, and then immediately in the fourth beat we throw in that tritone, which obviously is going to be very unstable and not want to, not want to be there. Um, and one of the interesting things that I found with this is was since I'm ascending and and it's going to be root cycle 3, this little la ti do pattern I kind of establish here with the bass, which is a little high because when you were talking about the bass register, but I figured I wanted this experiment to be on 3 different woodwind voices, and I figured that made more sense for the bassoon. Um, so I have this pattern here, and one of the cool things is with that bass line is that it echoes the 2 to 3 pattern. So root 2 3 2 3 root, right? So it's cool that each time this 2 3 happens, it's echoed at double time in the bass line. And essentially, yeah. So again, that pattern for the tension buildup and release is going to be root only, dissonance from the sus2, resolution immediately into a tritone. So we're resolving up into the third, and then the fifth is going down, creating that suspension with the tritone, and then that kind of repeats until we get to this second part, which I kind of figured I wanted. Like, I like to think of things like I try to step back and think about what is the function that this is acting as, and I needed something else for dissonance and resolution because we already have this dissonance and resolution here, so that's not necessarily enough. So I wanted something that really felt harmonically like just not, and then contrast that with something very, like we're gonna hold on to this E right here. So we started off in E, and we go through this cycle, and we end up, and I actually did a variation on the mystic chord, and I kind of wrote that in here. And the mystic chord, and then this is just an arpeggiation of it, and then it goes to an E5, I guess you could say. So it's just the root and the fifth, I believe. I don't think I have the third in there. And then I've got space for orchestration right here. I'm going to say undo on that. It's kind of hard to navigate this without being on the actual normal book here. And then, so I go to this mystic chord, arpeggiation, E. Mystic chord variation again, arpeggiation, and then I'm doing a root cycle 3 downwards with these chords. So I actually go to a B flat minor, and then down to a G minor, like it's going to descend back to the E, but then I don't. I go back into the mystic chord thing here, and then ultimately come back to, I think this is another E mystic chord thing, and then I've got this resolution with the finally is going to be the B flat minor to the G minor to the E, and I actually think I just do an E5 again, but this time I've got the low octave in the bassoon and then the higher octave in the oboe on top. But I kind of did this little triplet thing just for a little extra um, chromaticism and just a little bit more movement at the end there to make it feel more final when we hit that E. And it was kind of cool because it did create this pattern with the up a sixth, down a half step, up half step, which goes against the whole like, hey, we changed keys thing, but that's okay because we did change keys here. And then again here it repeats that same pattern in this bar with we've got a 6 chromatic steps up, so a tritone, down a half step, up a half step, up a half step, and then the bass really enforces this root cycle 3 down in contrast down to the E, so it actually is just playing the root, the B flat, the G, and then the E flat. But I was thinking of something like kind of mischievous, like swampy, so I was thinking Baba Yaga's Brew is like kind of like maybe somebody's going to this weird, creepy, spooky tavern out in the middle of a swamp. That's kind of what I was going with. So, and with the position change here with the 5 to 4 and the 2 to 3, I didn't keep it like religious in terms of the direction of the phrase, but it's I kind of did that just to keep things in range. So I kind of wrote more to the instrument ranges more than I did melodically. If you were going to expand this out, obviously you'd want to keep the directions heading the way they were, and then just change the instrumentation based on the register if you have to pass it off to another instrument. This is kind of a weird quirk right here. I was using staff pad and it just did not want to listen to a natural, so that is a double sharp on this F here. It should just be a G natural, but it happens. Without further ado, though, I'll go ahead and play the little clip it. So. You know what? I'm gonna redo this where this going. Hold on, does this work? Let me fix the audio real quick.